Alrighty, we're going to start creating some UI elements. We'll create a UI to display the variables that we built in the last episode. In the last episode, we built a variable for our player's health and a variable for our player's move speed. What we'll do right now is we'll add a little UI element to the screen to display our current health and our current, oh no, we added money, not move speed. We added health and we added money. So let's add those variables now. We actually already added the variables. Let's add those UI elements now. I'm going to right click in my hierarchy and I'm going to add a UI element, and I'll add text to my UI. And sometimes this pops up. We have to import TMP Essentials. This is the new text editing tool that we use. And it makes it a little awkward to code sometimes, but it's a much better text tool than the legacy text tool. So we're going to use TMP Essentials. Now in TMP Essentials, I created this text object. Something to note with our canvas, our game is over here. If I click on my canvas and I press F, we might notice that it's much bigger and much farther away. That's okay, that's just how it looks. I don't know why they do that. I feel like it should be scaled, kind of similar to how the camera is scaled, but it doesn't matter. This is our canvas. This is where all our text should be. So I created this new text. I could call this, current money. I could actually just say, let's just say cash $0. And maybe I'll make this a little green. And now when I press play, I'll have a thing in my bottom left corner that says cash $0. I'm going to add another UI element for another one of my variables that'll say health 100. Now you might notice that at this point in time, my cash is not moving. Also, it looks like I didn't update these lava prefabs to have the hurt box and the trigger from last video. Okay, so we have cash $0. We need a line of code that makes it so that our cash UI element that we just created gets updated whenever our money gets updated. So I'm going to, well, let's actually add one more thing first. I'm going to right click on my canvas. I'm going to add a UI. I'm going to add text. And I will add a health text. Health equals, let's say 100, even though maybe later on it won't equal 100. And I'm going to go to my scene, and I'm just going to move this to the top right corner. So, I'm not going to lie, I forget how this thing works, anchor presets, but I click the top right corner. And I'm just going to drag this up to the top right corner. And now my game, I have my cash, I have my health. Let's make it so that these UI elements update to show what we want them to show. So I'll make a new script, and I'll call it create mono behavior script. I'll call this one health UI, or I could just do this in the player. I could just give the player a reference instead of making a whole new script. I could just give the player a reference to this UI. Let's just do it that way. Let's just put it in the player's code. I'm going to open up the player controller. There's an infinite number of ways to, format any piece of code. I'm just going to keep writing more stuff in the player controller, which is getting to be a bigger and bigger, chunk of code, but it's okay. The health variable stored in here. I think it's a fine place to update the UI. So let's make a new public reference. Let's make a public. We have to add a library. We downloaded that TextMesh Pro thing. That's not a Unity default, so we're also going to say using TM Pro. So this gives us access to those TextMesh Pro UI elements that we added, which is the money and the health text. So I'm going to create a public variable. I'll create public TMP row, and it's like a TextMesh Pro UGUI. TextMesh Pro, so the public TextMesh Pro money UI, and I'll create a public TextMesh Pro called health UI. So we have a public TextMesh Pro UGI variable called money UI, and we have a public TextMesh Pro UGI called health UI. Now we have to give these public variables a reference to the UI elements that they're supposed to refer to. So I'll go back to Unity, and I can see that there's going to be two public variables in my player, one for my money UI and one for my health UI, that I could set. I could set these public variables by dragging my health UI onto my health UI, and by dragging my money UI onto my money UI. And I don't know if I got that backwards. Let me double check. This is my cash UI. I'm going to rename that to cash UI. And this is my health UI. I will rename this to health UI. And in my player, yeah, my health UI is my health UI, my cash UI is my cash UI. That's fine. Okay, looks good. Now, the player knows where these UI elements are now. He knows about them. We gave them a reference to them. So the player can change them now. Now that we've told the player that we have this cash UI and this health UI, we can change these things in the player's code. So I'll just go to the update function, and I'll create a new line of code at the beginning of update that's gonna update our UIs. And we'll start by doing money UI dot text equals cash equals plus money. So what that'll do is it'll say, and I'll actually add a plus $sign. And now there's a couple of things happening here, and I'll explain them. So we're setting our text. Our text is a string. It takes a string. A string just means a string of letters. So a string means like a sentence. Cash equals, this is a string. And we're adding to cash equals the integer money. We're adding this money number to the string. So it's going to be, the sentence is going to be cash equals whatever number our money is, $sign. Let's try that. I think it might actually already work. So let's see if it updates. It updates our money UI dot text, the text of our money UI, to cash equals money plus $sign. So when I press play, and I walk over and I touch this coin, my cash goes up by 1. That's awesome. I could add some more coins to the game. Maybe I make it so that later I'll have some enemies, and maybe they'll drop some coins when I, beat them up. Maybe I'll have some plants that I grow out of the ground, and when I pull them out of the ground, maybe some coins will pop up. But for now, I can, throw in as many coin prefabs as I want, and I can collect some money. That's great. Let's update the health UI so that it also works. Coin, 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 coin. Cool, I have $6. My health UI is not updating. Let's update my health UI so it actually works. And this lava is probably not going to be an actual feature in the final game, but we could use it for now to test out the health UI. So let's do health UI dot text. So the text of the health UI is going to equal health equals plus health. Save. So now whatever my health is equal to, my health UI will get set to that amount. So that's some basic UI work for in-game UIs. So I can touch lava and my health decreases. Now obviously later maybe I want to make something more visual, like a nice little health bar. That's a little complicated. Maybe I should practice first. Let's just hop in and make a health bar. Why not? So my health UI, let's add a health bar to this. So I'm going to press F to focus on my health UI. Whoops. I'm going to click on it and I'm going to press F to focus on my health UI. And I'm going to give this a... What do I want to give this? Let's give it a slider. Let's give it a UI slider. I'm just testing. Let's see. Normal color is green. want that thing. Slider, interactable, highlighted color, selected color. I'm just going to make all these colors different just so I can see which one's which. I'm looking for the... Oh, there it is. Fill rect. Fill area. Fill rect. I'm going to make this uninteractable in a second. I'm just playing around with the slider to see if I can make a health bar. Okay, so I want it to start full. And I want that little... So this is the fill. It's green. Let's start with the fill being full. Background is red. Slider max value is 100 and value is 0. Let's do whole numbers. Value starts at 100. Why is it not filling all the way up? So I added to the health UI, I added the slider. I changed the background to red. I changed the fill to green. I'm going to get rid of the interactable part, so there should be interactable is off. And I want that to be completely transparent. So disabled color is going to be, alpha is going to be 0, so it's completely transparent. And max value, I'm just going to say 90. I'm a little bit confused about why this last bit of the bar doesn't fill all the way up. Max value is 100. I'm a little bit confused about why. Alright, that'll do it. Okay, perfect. That'll be my health bar. And now what I can do is I will, in my player code, I'll set this slider value to be set to equal to my health. So we'll say in our player code, so player, my player controller, I need to reference that slider, so I'll do a public slider. Nope, not a slider joint, public slider. What is this called? I thought it was called a slider. It's called a slider. Public slider test. The name slider cannot be found. Slider. That's okay. So this happens sometimes. We're going to go on Google and we're going to look up why I can't reference my slider on Unity. Unity 3D referencing a slider in C# code. Public game object, my prefab. Slider. Okay. We're missing a library. So I just read a few errors that other people had, and we're missing a library. Slider is under unityengine.ui. Now we have reference to the slider. We have slider. We're going to call it health bar. And the same place where we update our UIs, we're going to say health bar dot value equals health. And now as we lose health, our health bar will decrease, and that is a pretty effective way to get that done. Looks pretty good to me. So I have my little health bar up there now, and my game crashed, so that's not ideal. My game crashed because my player never got a reference to that slider that it's looking for. So if I go to my player, in my player code, we have this health bar slider that we never set a reference to, so I'm going to drag my slider into that slider. And now, when I press play, and the way I knew it was an error, by the way, is because down here it said object reference not set to an instance, and I was like, oh, the reference I just set, I never put it into the game. But now, as I touch things that damage me, we can see that my health is decreasing, and it's decreasing that health bar as well. So that's pretty good. Maybe we should add a line of code for when my health reaches 0. Yeah, we might as well just do that really quickly. So I don't see why not. It's not technically UI, but what we'll do at the end of update, we'll say, after an update finishes, we'll say if health is less than or equal to 0, because sometimes you'll take, like, you'll be at 4 health, you take 5 damage, now you're at -1 health. So if you say if health equals 0, you might hit an error there. But if health equals 0, we're going to say die. And now die can do whatever you want, but I'll create a die function. So we just add at the end of update, if our health is 0, we're going to die. If our health is less than or equal to 0, we're going to die. Now we have to create a die function that'll tell us what to do when we die. We'll say die. We'll say public void die. Public void die is going to say, for now, let's just do transform.position equals 0. So when we die, we go to 0, and let's set our health to, let's just say when you die, you only respawn with 20 health. Your health goes to 20. Now, in our game, our max health is 100. If we wanted to change our max health, we'd also have to add a line of code that changes our max slider amount. But we can see that this is working. When I die, I respawn back at spawn. My position goes to 0. So all my die code is doing is public void die. It's setting my transform.position, that's the player's position, to vector 30. Vector 30 just means this. X is 0, Y is 0, Z is 0. We have to remember, our whole game is basically on a piece of graph paper. If you've ever taken math class, we have this grid. You know, as my X increases, as my X goes up by 1, as my Y goes down by 1, I go down 1 grid square. As my X increases by 1, I go up 1 grid square. The game is a piece of graph paper. My position on that graph paper determines where I am on the grid. You can't see the grid while you're playing the game, but it's there, and it's how positions are tracked. Everything's on a piece of graph paper, everything is points on a piece of graph paper, and the Z is forward and back. It only really comes up in 3D games. Sometimes it'll come up in 2D games in rare scenarios, like when things are layered on top of each other like this. But usually that's handled by the layer system. Alrighty, so we have a health bar, we have some UI, it's working, and our health resets, which is pretty cool.